A lot of talk in the Christian world about blood moons and the end of the world and Jesus coming back. Well, there is no end of the world anywhere near in sight, regardless of what, I guess, Harold Camping and other people have said over the last several years. In the scripture, it talks about the end of the age. And the end of the age is completely different than the end of the world. The end of the age is referring to the time that Yeshua speaks of when the seventh, the last trumpet sounds. And when that last trumpet sounds, it is the gathering together of the saints to the sea of fire and glass, where we are saved from the wrath to come. While we are on the sea of fire and glass, and the angels come out of the throne room with bowls of the wrath of Almighty God, which are poured out upon the inhabitants of the earth left behind. And then at the end of that period, then we dress for the marriage supper of the Lamb. The marriage supper of the Lamb, this 7-day feast, at the end of which, on the 8th day, Hoshana Rabbah, the last great day, that is when the groom and his bride now go to their new home. Yeshua comes back from heaven with his host, and we then take the earth, where Satan is bound for the next period of 1,000 years. Yeshua reigns upon the earth for 1,000 years, where the Torah is established, is known throughout all of the earth. Those of us who have served him faithfully are given positions of responsibility during this time. But it's still not the end of the world. At the end of that period of time, that is when the last and final judgment is set. And there is a new heaven and new earth. Paradise is restored. The very paradise that we were ejected from at the Garden of Eden is now restored, and we now have paradise again. So that is truly the end of that world, but it's the beginning of a new age at that. We have new ages beginning and ending all the time, and tonight is the last night of an age, this very night. This is the last night in which we have a 2-hour Shabbat Night Live, because things have changed. We are moving on, and we are reaching out around the world with the gospel of the kingdom, and the Chronological Gospels television program is going out all over the world. You will be a part of that for our new 1-hour Shabbat Night Live format. So this is the end of the age, and this is the last 2-hour Shabbat Night Live!
It's Shabbat Night Live from Charlotte, North Carolina, with your host, Michael Rood. Join Michael with co-host Scott Laird as they welcome from the House of Israel, Arthur Bailey. Now, here he is, the Messianic Matador, Michael Rood.
Well, Shabbat Shalom, Torah fans. This is Michael Rood with you here for the last 2-hour Shabbat Night Live, where we are and will continue to, even though in a shorter time frame, restore the Hebrew roots of the faith. We're going back to the faith once delivered to the saints. We're stripping away all the pagan sun god worship that was added in by the heretic Constantine with his ridiculous edicts that destroyed all of the prophetic shadow pictures embedded in the Feast of the Lord and replaced them with Babylonian sun god worship festivals that have become part and parcel of modern day churchianity. We are leaving behind Pharisaic Judaism, the very religion that Yeshua repeatedly, vehemently violated over and over and over again. But again, if we don't read the Gospels with an understanding of what the Pharisees were teaching, we have no idea of what rules and regulations Yeshua is actually violating. Well, that's what we do here on Shabbat Night Live. That's what we do here at A Rood Awakening. And to help me do this and to get the Chronological Gospels message out around the world, the greatest story never told is our good friend, my host, who has filled in for me all this time, Scott Laird.
Hey, how are you, Michael?
Scott,
Shabbat Shalom.
Well, Shabbat Shalom. It's good to be back with you again this week. This is 2 weeks in a row. This is more frequency than Johnny Carson did. But
Yes, sir.
but we have been out gallivanting around the world and just had a great time. I told you a little bit about it last week, but the time that I spent down there with Dr. Mike and Jenny down there in Florida and helping me to get back on top and recuperate. And so it's good to be back with you. Thank you, Scott, for the work that you've been doing here in my absence. Appreciate it.
No problem.
And Matthew, and you know, I don't know what you would have done without Matthew laughing at your corny jokes.
Sat in silence, I think, is probably what it would have been.
Yeah, I couldn't believe the reference to Gumby. I think Gumby went out when I was a little kid. How would you even know? Was Gumby like resurrected in Canada?
It's one of those, one of those nostalgic kind of
Oh
toys.
yeah,
It's
nostalgic.
kinda like,
You just almost have to go back to Tom Mix and the cowboy shows from the 1930s to get the Gumby. That was great. Well, Scott, you probably noticed that in this entire thing about the end of the age, nowhere did I talk about what you would hear on every gospel quartet album about spending forever in heaven.
Right,
Isn't that where everyone's going? Aren't they, all the Christian churches, you're going to heaven and we're going to spend eternity in heaven. Where will you spend eternity? Are you sure if you die tonight you'd spend eternity in heaven? If I died tonight, no, I'm sure I would not spend eternity in heaven. This is not even a biblical concept. It's complete nonsense. We go there for a very short period of time, come back to the earth, reign on the earth with Yeshua, and then there's a new heaven and new earth, and we reign and we live on this new heaven and earth, in this new earth, in this city that is described. We've got the dimensions of it. Where in the world do we come up with this stuff? It's like, I don't even know. I'm just amazed.
Yeah, new heaven, new earth. Maybe people assume the new earth is like heaven, or I don't know where the concept comes from.
Maybe that's it. But, if what we're doing is, in heaven, we're sitting on clouds, we're playing harps and smoking cigars. And, it's like, you can just make it up. Ladies and gentlemen, we're not into making things up. We want to restore the Hebrew roots of the faith. We want to get back to what drove those first century believers and the reality that they live with, the intensity that they live with. I mean, most of those apostles were killed. They were executed.
Yeah.
I mean, Matthew, he went down to Ethiopia, stood up against the king and proclaiming the gospel. The king had him then, put down on the ground and had his head cut off. I mean, he went out with a blaze of glory. Scott, I think it is significant that Yeshua didn't say to the robber on the cross, today thou shalt be with me in heaven.
Right.
He said, he said unto thee, I say unto thee today, thou shalt be with me in paradise. He didn't say that he would be with him in the millennial reign of the Messiah. He doesn't qualify. He's done nothing. He said, you will be with me in paradise. That is after the resurrection of the unjust, when all are judged at the very end of the 1,000-year reign. And he says he will be with him in paradise, because paradise is not restored until the new heaven and the new earth. In fact, Yeshua wasn't in heaven or in paradise that day. He was dead and in the grave, just like he said he would be. But yet, because we've got to get him in heaven, in paradise right away, they put a comma in the wrong place, because there is no punctuation in the original text. Right. I say unto thee, today thou shalt be with me in paradise. It's like, wait, Yeshua's not even in paradise, and paradise isn't until the new heaven and new earth at the end of 2 more ages. See?
Right.
But if you put the comma where it belongs, I say unto thee today, thou shalt in the future be with me in paradise. Now everything fits, because this man has not qualified in any way, shape, or form to reign with Messiah for 1,000 years. The apostles did, and this is what we are pressing toward, that mark, so that we can reign with him for 1,000 years. And it's dependent upon whether we do anything for him in this life now.
Right.
Salvation, just like it was for the one on the cross, that's by grace. But reward is of merit. If you do nothing to merit a reward, you will get no reward. Yeshua said that over and over and over again. Well, Scott, we have got a short time to get into this. Here we are on the 12th biblical month. It is now February 27th. It is the 7th day of the month. Well, right now it is the 8th day of the month. And this next week, coming up on Purim, what happens in the chronological Gospels the last year of Yeshua's ministry?
Well, this is
the
when,
end of his ministry.
Right about today, Lazarus is not feeling very well. And in a couple of days, he's going to be dead.
That's right.
Yep.
And Yeshua, when he finds out about it, because Martha and Miriam, they sent emissaries down to Yeshua, which he's down in the Dead Sea Valley down at this time, and said, please come, our brother is sick.
Right.
And Yeshua then tells his disciples that he's actually sleeping. He's dead. And he stays there. He doesn't go up immediately. Now, he could have gone up at any time, but he doesn't go up immediately. Why? Because we see this pattern in the gospel record. Yeshua goes up to each one of the feasts of the Lord.
Right. And even if it's not one of the commanded so-called feasts of the
That's
Lord.
right. He goes up to Hanukkah, which is John chapter 8, verse 12, all the way through the end of chapter 10. There is more scripture, there's more text concerning this going up to Hanukkah than any other event except for the last Passover, the death, burial, and resurrection.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
And so it is there at the Feast of Lights that he declares himself to be the light of the world. And you know, and so he's assigning this prophetic significance to Hanukkah, and then he waits. He doesn't come up right away. As a matter of fact, Lazarus has been dead for 3 days. It's on the 4th day he raises him.
Yeah.
You would think that he would, as a shadow picture, that he, as Yeshua said, that he would be dead and in the grave 3 days and 3 nights and raised on the 3rd day. You might think that he would do the same thing for Lazarus.
Yeah, so why didn't he? I don't
Why?
get that.
Because he waits, because he's going up for Purim.
Okay.
He's going up there again to attach the prophetic significance to the Feast of Purim. But again, if we don't understand the Feast of the Lord as prophetic shadow pictures of good things to come, then we miss these subtle details that are in the scripture like that. So we're coming up on Purim. We've got a lot of exciting things going on. Don't we have a Purim party? We actually have the planning guide for this in the Feast for Families. This is one of the books that my daughter, Sarah, wrote on the Feast for Families. This is Hanukkah and Purim. And we've got something going on special, don't we, Scott?
Yeah, we do. On our Purim page, people can go there and they can download the Purim play that is printed in this book, and they can take that play and then record themselves doing a Purim play and upload it to that same website. And we're going to have a contest there. People can win an everything Michael Rood package.
Wait. That's well over $1,000.
That's big bucks.
I mean, you're going to give that away to someone to the one who wins having recorded their own Purim play.
That's right, using the script that is on the website.
Okay.
That you can get from the book here.
Okay.
And also, everyone who enters automatically gets the Purim 5 DVD set. Anyone who enters.
Okay,
so
this is what we've been showing all this time.
Yep.
On Purim, the vanquishing of Vashti and the making of the King's Bride.
That's right.
They're going to get the entire series, anyone who enters into the contest. And tonight, what we're going to do, this is going to be a short opening, ladies and gentlemen, because we're going to do our entire hour and a half Purim party, our Purim play that we did, I guess 2 years ago is when we actually did that. And so we're going to give you a heads up on it so that you can see how you can do this. Whether it's your family, your entire congregation, if you invite the entire city together at the Civic Auditorium to do this, however you want to do it, you film it, send it to us, you have a chance to win a prize worth well over $1 million, which is the Michael Rood Everything Package. We sell it for about, I think it's available on the website for like a little over 1,000.
Yep. Yeah, but, four figures for sure.
Anyone who enters gets something for that. So that is, that's wonderful. What else do we have going on the schedule,
Well,
Scott?
to get ready for that Passover video, or pardon me, Purim video, you can get the Purim love gift, the February love gift this month.
Okay.
That comes with masks and all kinds of things to perform your play. So you might want to do that first and then perform your play.
Okay, all right. Well, that's happening right away. So make sure this is like your last chance to get this and get it out there right away.
That's
so
right.
I'm sure
The
we'll
offer
have
ends tomorrow.
a special line. Now we've got Passover 2015. Worthy is the Lamb who was slain. We are going to take the whole picture of the Passover all the way into the book of Revelation. This is going to be a Passover of apocalyptic proportions, ladies and gentlemen. It is just weeks away. It is April 3rd through the 5th, that entire weekend. It's going to be at the Embassy Suite, Charlotte Concord, the only place that we could get that could then put over 1,000 people for Passover. And I'm going to tell you something here, ladies and gentlemen. I'm not even supposed to say this, but if we sell out, if we completely pack this place out, we're going to make an announcement about the Feast of Sukkot.
Ooh.
Oh, yeah.
Ooh.
Oh, yeah. I'm not going to tell you, ladies and gentlemen, this is going to be something. But you got to be here. Be here for Passover. We're going to pack it out. We've got room for 1,000 people, and it's like, the registration is like $79 for adults, $39 for kids. It doesn't even pay for your meals, ladies and gentlemen. But this is what you have to do to reserve your ticket. We want to make sure that you're coming, okay? And so don't just sign up and not show up, all right? So this is what you do. The hotel is down to $125 a night. I can't believe it. They are all suites. They have made-to-order hot breakfast every morning that's available. There's going to be no pig, no dog, no cat, no rat, okay? And we have indoor pool, hot tub. And so what you need to do is get your Passover tickets first, then get a room. I'm going to be there. I'm going to be flying in from Israel after a month in Israel, which I'm getting ready to go now to film for the Chronological Gospels. Arthur Bailey is going to be there, and Arthur's going to be with us a little bit later in the show. David Jesse's going to be with us, and we've got breakout sessions. We've got our ambassador luncheon, our matzah mitzvahs, children's classes, Mrs. Noah, the whole 9 yards. We've got Hebrew Roots photo booth with free pictures emailed to you after the event. It is an absolute hoot, ladies and gentlemen. So this is the event that you want to be at. Now, I have to tell you, our Israel tour, this is it, people. This is it. It is the most, I don't know if it's the most expensive tour out there. It should be if it's not. You will do things on this tour that you'll never get to do. This is the last one I'm doing. I'm not doing one next year. We'll see what happens after that. Last week, you found out a little bit why this is the last one I'm doing for this duration, but you need to be there for this event. It's the only time that I'm going to be with you before you wake up until after you are in bed. Answer every question you have on site. You are going to go places that people who live in Israel their whole lives don't even know they exist. And nobody can take you to Israel. None of these pastors, Hebrew stations, they don't live there. They don't know it. They've never lived in the old city of Jerusalem for years. It's never happened. You are going to see things. You'll understand why people who lived in Israel their whole life join me on my Jerusalem tour, because they've never gotten to see it this way. Ladies and gentlemen, this is it. If you ever thought about going to Israel, sign up. Get on the website and sign up for it now. There is no excuse. This is your last chance. I've got my daughter Allison going. The actress. She's quitting. She's stepping away from her work in television in Hollywood. She's going to be on this tour because she said, "Dad, I've never been on a tour with you." I said, "This is it, sweetheart. If you're going, this is the one." She's going to be on the tour. We got people joining us from around the world. You don't want to miss this event. You'll never experience anything like this. From then on, you open up the page of the Bible, you will smell the dust, the falafels, you will smell the camel dung. It's like, it'll be so real to you, it'll put it in context like you've never seen it before. So, we're going to take a break right now, give you a chance to step into this ministry and support this ministry. You are the only sponsors. We need your help. We need you to stand with us. This is your opportunity. Don't run to the refrigerator. Sit down and talk about it, because if we're ministering to you, then please stand with us. We're hanging it all out there, and we're doing it for you. We're not raising money to get the gospel of the kingdom out. We're getting it out. We're asking you to stand with us and help us keep doing what we're doing already. We'll see you in just a few minutes. Welcome back to Shabbat Night Live. Here we are on the very eve, the cusp of our celebration of Purim. As for the last several weeks, we have been into the series on Purim, the vanquishing of Vashti and the making of a king's bride. And tonight, this is a short front end because we've got an entire 1.5 hour presentation for you in which we are going to take you to our Purim celebration where we acted out all these things. We invite you not only to watch tonight, pick up the Feast for Family, Hanukkah and Purim, and be sure in Purim, my daughter, Sarah Rood Smith, my daughter, she wrote a play so that you can act this out in your congregations like we're going to act out tonight. And then on Thursday, join us again or do your own Purim. And at that Purim, we had a special guest with us, and he's with us again tonight. Ladies and gentlemen, Arthur Bailey. Arthur, welcome back to Shabbat Night Live.
Thank you, Michael.
This is our very last 2-hour Shabbat Night Live. After all these years, been doing a 2-hour Shabbat Night Live. And it was good to have you with us for our Purim celebration.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun.
Yeah, we had a great time. All the kids were there, and you know, it's really a family event, and that's what House of Israel. That's what it's all about over there.
Yes.
I make no mistake. I mean, what we do here at A Rood Awakening in this environment, it's a television program. It's shown on TBN. It's on Inspiration Network, on Gospel Channel. It goes around the world. But what you have over the House of Israel is an entire family event. And, you know, and occasionally we get together, gather one together and have a great family event. And that's what we did for Purim.
Yes. Had a great time.
Yeah, it was. It really was very, very special. And we invite all of you out there to join us not only tonight, but make your own Purim celebration at your own place. Even if it's just your family, invite some friends over and make it an event, because this is one of the things, according to the law of Medes and Persians, which never changes, that we should remember forever. Well, Arthur, last week you were with us and we got into the detail, or a little bit overview, of your discipleship training. And as I was going through this, I was very excited about the foundations that you were laying for people to get grounded in the faith that was once delivered to the saints. Mm-hmm. And that's what the Hebrew roots is all about.
It really is.
Stripping away Judaism, Phariseeism, one and the same.
Absolutely.
And getting back to the Hebrew roots of the faith, Hebrew or Hebrew, which means to cross over. And that is what Abraham was told, come out of Babylon.
Come out.
Cross over, come out of Babylon, go to the promised land. And it took us a long time to finally get into the promised land, but then we got thrown out because we got into all this paganism. Mm-hmm. And so what you're doing in your series is taking people back into the promised land, laying the foundation.
Laying the foundation, giving them the tools that they need so they're not dependent on individuals with a Babylonian mindset or Western Gentile perspective to search the scriptures themselves and see what the Almighty has in store for all of us.
That's right. Now, here it is. Now, this is the first semester, first quarter. Here it is. Now, this is what's going into the prison.
That's what's going into the prison.
This is what's at the university.
With all of the DVDs.
And the university, where it's already being taught as curriculum in university out in California.
Right.
And that is where the accreditation process is in the works right now. Mm-hmm. And when that's finished, then these will go into all of the federal prisons.
Absolutely.
In the United States of America.
And then the state prisons, that's our next.
The state prisons after that. Well, this is beautiful. This is a lifetime achievement, but you've got a lot left of your life, so I'm excited about where it's going to go from there. In this very first one, as I just went through it very briefly, but that foundational verse, one of the foundational verses that you use.
We talked about
2 Timothy.
Absolutely.
2:15.
Absolutely. And here's where you have to now do everything that you know to make yourself approved. You have to now be able to, it goes beyond just study, but to diligently.
Well, let's quote that verse. Study to show thyself approved unto God, a workman who needeth not to be ashamed, rightly dividing the word of truth. So that word study, we think, you open up the book and, study, but that's not what the Greek word is it?
No, it's not. It actually means to diligently hearken, to diligently search, to be diligent about what is in the word.
That's right, spoudazo.
Right.
Diligence, be diligent. Mm-hmm. It's not something that just comes overnight. It's not because, it's a new fad, Hebrew roots is a new fad. No, it's much more than that. You've got to spend your years in it, really. A lifetime.
And when you embrace it, that's when the Almighty now see that you are one who is actually going to be committed to the work that He's laid out before us. And that's when He begins to reveal the treasures from heaven, the insights, the things that He's hid from the rest of the world.
That's right. Now, as we show this diligence to show that we are approved of God. It's not to make sermons. It's not to be approved by our denomination. It's not to follow the party line. It really is that our heart is to know the one true God.
It really is.
And what I see is that you only get as much truth as you'll obey.
That is true. And what I've found in my own searching and being diligent is that many of the things that I had been taught, things that I'd been spoon-fed, I go to search these things out and it's not there. These are doctrines of men that have been continually regurgitated through the ages that now have formed a way of thinking in the average believer.
Right, and it's almost like they think of it as one of the foundations of the faith, and it's not even biblical. It's not even in the scriptures itself. It's from isolating numbered sound bites and then, stacking them all together to prove a point that the context would never allow.
Taking things out of context to build a context that doesn't even exist. So now you're teaching people things that are erroneous. You're teaching the doctrines, and these are the things Yeshua said, even to His disciples, is to beware of these teachings. Beware of the leaven of the Pharisees, the Sadducees, even the leaven of Herod. And so now it's our responsibility. I made a decision that I'm not going to put my salvation, my faith, in the hands of someone else. That's my responsibility, and it's the responsibility of everyone out there who claim to be a follower of Messiah.
And that journey took you as the pastor of 5 different denominations during your tenure out there.
All of them within the Sunday context, and now transforming from a Sunday to a Sabbath observing community, and then looking at the commands, the feast, all of the things that the Father has prophetic shadow pictures hidden right there in plain sight. But because of the denominational lens, you can't even see what is right there, blinded, and not even realizing that you're blind.
Well, this will certainly strip the blinders of those who desire to know the truth,
Absolutely.
who want to rightly divide the word of truth.
Absolutely.
And that is, that right division, orthotomanta, orthotemno, a correct cutting. Because so many people, they just cut out things and they throw them away, or they cut out things and they assemble them. No, you've got to be able to separate truth from error. You've got to be able to separate the rules and regulations of men from what the Almighty says, and we stand under the shadow of his wings.
Absolutely.
Well, Arthur, tonight we are going to get into Purim, and that's where we're going to be going in just a moment. And ladies and gentlemen, let me say this about Purim, because Purim is the shadow picture of the prophetic shadow picture of the bride of the Messiah. Vashti is canned. She may think she's gorgeous, but inside she is less than a beauty. And as a matter of fact, what we see is a picture of someone who gets ready to be the bride of the king and knows the king and has groomed herself and has gotten ready for everything that it is going to take to be a bride of the king, while for the most part, the beauty of this world and what the world has to offer, the modern Christian church and all the paganism that has been part of it, is now going to be discarded. Get ready, get cleaned up, this is it. Now, we've got a word for our sponsors, and you are our only sponsors out there.
One of the most powerful stories in the Bible is that of Esther, the inspiration for the Feast of Purim.
Purim tells of Esther, a peasant girl layman, whose courage would defeat the evil plan of Haman. Her bravery remarkable, she risked her own life to save the people of Israel and herself the king's wife. But that's not all. Purim's also a prophecy about you and Messiah and end-time victory.
The story of Esther serves as a prophecy about believers today, the bride of Messiah, living in Babylon at the end of the age, just as Esther did thousands of years ago. In both cases, it's a story that ends with victory over oppression, thanks to the perfect plan of Yehovah. This Purim, celebrate your ultimate victory in the Messiah with the Purim package. Our gift to you when you give to a Rood Awakening International. With your gift of $75 or more, Michael Rood will send you everything you need for a family Purim party. Your Purim package includes a Happy Purim snack bowl, custom Purim drink coasters from a Rood Awakening International, plus a child-sized Purim tambourine and hand-painted maracas. You'll also receive theatrical masks of Esther, Haman, and Mordecai to reenact the Purim story. Or, with your gift of $160 or more, you'll receive all of these items, plus a set of Purim cookie cutters and a 12-foot Meggilah scroll. The entire biblical book of Esther in Hebrew and English, complete with fun illustrations for kids. Discover the blessing and important lessons of celebrating Purim. Call today or visit our website to receive the Purim package. Your gift when you give to a Rood Awakening International. Hurry, offer ends February 28th or while supplies last. He is one whose blood was prophesied on the doorposts in Egypt. The one who would become the ultimate sacrifice for you. Come and experience a Rood Awakening International's soul-stirring remembrance of the Passover that changed the world. Passover 2015. Worthy is the Lamb. April 3rd through the 5th at the Embassy Suites in Concord, North Carolina. Enjoy teachings from Michael Rood, Arthur Bailey, David Jesse, and children's classes with Mrs. Noah. Plus, you'll learn to make and bake your own unleavened bread and experience Michael Rood's awe-inspiring narrative of the Messiah's final hours.
The brimstone is about to hit the fan.
It's a Passover Seder you'll never forget. Register now for Passover 2015 and choose your own seat for the Seder meal. Hurry, seating is limited.
Traditions that we inherited from Babylon through Constantine have us occasionally with a little plastic cup and a little round wafer in a church service having what is called communion. But Yeshua was not having communion with his disciples. It was the last meal before his crucifixion, which happened at the time the Passover lambs were being sacrificed the following morning. Yeshua took this opportunity to explain something that had been embedded in the Israelite culture for then over 1,000 years. Melchizedek brought forth bread and wine to Abraham, and he blessed the Most High, saying, Baruch atah Yehovah, Eloheinu melech haolam, hamotzi lechem min haaretz. Blessed are you, Yehovah, our Elohim, King of the universe, who brings forth bread from the earth. Yeshua said, this represents my body, which will be broken for you. As often as you do it in remembrance of me. And so we break this bread and we do it in remembrance of him. Likewise, Yeshua took the cup and he blessed the Most High with that blessing that Melchizedek blessed the Most High. Baruch atah Yehovah, Eloheinu melech haolam, borei pari hagafen. Blessed are you, Yehovah, our Elohim, the King of the universe, the creator of the fruit of the vine. Yeshua said, this represents my shed blood, which will be poured out for the remission of sin. I will not drink another drop of the fruit of the vine. You take my cup and divide it among yourselves, because I won't drink it until I drink it again with you in my Father's kingdom. The marriage supper of the Lamb, Yeshua will lift this cup and he will say, L'chaim, to life everlasting. And until then, we remember what he's done and remember that marriage supper of the Lamb. Get ready.
So you got to be in there. Where's your sword? Okay, that's okay.
Shalom, Torah fans, and welcome to
Gotta get inside
the
the
reading
script,
of the
though.
Megillah of Hadassah. Tonight is the whole Megillah, and we are here in Shushan, in the citadel, in the city of Shushan, for this momentous occasion, because this is the one festival, according to the law of the Medes and Persians, that we are to remember forever. And so we are very excited to have everyone here in the studio audience. We have so many Queen Easters. We've got so many Hadassahs and Hamans and Mordecais and Ahasuerus that have come from around the world to be here for this festive occasion. And according to the law of the Medes and the Persians, which cannot under any circumstance be changed, and signed by the ring of Xerxes himself, Ahasuerus, that we will forever remember this time of Purim, which Purim is lots in Hebrew. And it harkens back to the time when the enemies of the Jews, the Novus Ordo Seclorum, the New World Order of their day, determined that on one day, all of God's people would be exterminated in one day. The greatest empire on earth was Xerxes' million-man army, and the army which included the immortals. Now, the entire empire is going to slaughter all of the Yehudim, all of the Jews in one single day, and it was all done by pure chance. The casting of lots. And it just so happened that as they began casting lots, they had to go all the way around the year to the 12th month, which would be the maximum amount of time for all the preparation to be made. And so in the 12th month, on the 13th day, it was determined that all of the Jews were going to be exterminated in one day. But even though the name of the Almighty does not appear anywhere in the book of Hadassah, it's nowhere there, we see that he is there and he is not silent. That he is working behind the scenes to save his people when it looks like there is no way that they can possibly be saved. And here we are coming around full circle into the new world order of the day, and we are going to see that this very festival that was put in place by order of Mordecai, who had the signet ring of the king, and his cousin Hadassah, the queen, also known as Queen Esther, that one festival, now, here we are today, and we're seeing the same things play out in the world to this very day and this very moment. So welcome to the reading of the whole Megillah, and tonight we want you to join in with us around the world as we celebrate Purim. And so tonight, as we... Okay, so what we're going to do tonight, as we, oh my goodness, look at these bearded three wise men from the east who are here in the front row here with us. And we've got another wise man back there who's bearded and has a goatee. You kids look great. What we're going to do tonight, though, we have to do something while we're reading, is that when we come to the names of the different characters, by tradition, when we come to Haman, then we would boo, we would hiss, we would use our groggers, we would write his name on the bottom of our feet, we'd stamp our feet, and we would blot his name out.
He's Haman, so he wouldn't do that.
Every time we mention his name, okay? But tonight, we're going to add some more to this, okay? So tonight, we have some special music when Vashti comes on. We also have Memucan, who is one of the king's advisors. He's going to be speaking. But when we come to Haman, we're going to boo, we're going to hiss. We are going to... Okay, everyone practice, okay, ready? Not good, not good enough, ready? Okay, Haman. Okay, all right, that's a little better. Audience participation. I want to hear the roof shake when we come to that, okay? King Ahasuerus, when he is named... Okay, so every time his names come out, and I want everyone in the audience to go, da 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 da. Okay, ready? Da, da, da. Okay, beautiful. And then when we come to Hadassah or Easter, that's what it is. Okay, so everyone practice now. Okay, ready? Easter. Okay, very good. Now when we come to Mordecai. Yay! Okay, and then when we come to Queen Vashti. Okay, so, all right, so when we come to that part, then I want to hear everyone howl like a wolf. Okay. All right, thank you, David Rose and his orchestra. Thank you. And then when we come to Zeresh, which is Persian for Goldie, that's Haman's wife. Again? Ah! Okay, let's try that. Okay? Okay. All right, that's beautiful. And then we have another character, Harbona, who is one of the servants of Ahasuerus, and I think he's a eunuch. So we're going to see what happens then. So, ladies and gentlemen, if you'll please take your Meggilah, which means scroll, of Hadassah, who in... Wait, no. I need something with a little more drama. Okay. So, ladies and gentlemen, now, if you all take your Meggilah of Esther and turn to chapter 1. And it came to pass in the days of Ahasuerus. Yeah, how about the da-da-da-da, people? Okay? So it came to pass in the days of Ahasuerus that, and he is the Ahasuerus. Okay, you're losing your cues, kids. Keep up with me. Every time it's do-do-do-do. Now this is the Ahasuerus, who is also the son of Darius I, known as Xerxes, who ruled over all of the kingdoms from Cush, Ethiopia, to India, the Indus River, India, all the way to Sardis, which the Greeks burned, and that is why Xerxes went to war against the Greeks. And in those days, when King Ahasuerus sat on the throne of his reign, which is in the citadel of Shushan, in the 3rd year of his reign, he made a feast for all of his officials and servants. The power of Persia and Media, the nobles and the princes of the provinces were all gathered together before him. When he showed the riches of his esteemed reign and the splendor of his excellent greatness for many days, even 180 days, 6 entire months. And when these days were completed, the king made a feast lasting 7 days for all the people who were present in the citadel of Shushan, from small to great, in the courtyard of the garden of the king's palace. White and blue tapestries were fastened with cords of fine linen, and purple on silver rods and marble columns. The couches were of gold and silver, on a mosaic of porphyry, marble, mother of pearl, and black marble. This is like one of the wonders of the ancient world that we have never seen. And they served drinks in golden vessels, the vessels being different one from another, with much royal wine, according to the great abundance and beneficence of Ahasuerus. And drinking was according to this law. No one compelled anyone to stop. For so the king ordered all the officers of his house that they should do according to everyone's pleasure. Queen Vashti also... Queen Vashti also made a feast for the women in the royal palace, which Ahasuerus, the king, owned the palace, and she had a royal feast for 7 days. Who did this? Queen Vashti. And on the 7th day, when the heart of the king was glad with wine, he ordered Mehuman, Biztha, Harbona, Bigtha, Abitha, Zethar, and Carcass, the 7 eunuchs who were in attendance before the presence of King Ahasuerus, to bring Queen Vashti before the king with her royal crown in order to show her absolute beautiful loveliness to the people and to the officials, for she indeed was an absolute knockout. But Queen Vashti refused to come at the king's command brought by the eunuchs. And Ahasuerus he was not just a little angry, he was very wroth, and his rage burned within him. And so the king said unto the wise men who understood the times, for in this way the king's matter came before all who knew the law and right ruling, and those who were close to him, Karshina, Shethar, Admatha, Sharshish, Meres, Marsina, and Memucan, the 7 princes of Media and Persian, who saw the king's face, who sat first in his reign, according to the law, he said, what should be done to Queen Vashti? Because she did not do the word of her husband, the king Ahasuerus, that he spoke through the eunuchs. And Memucan answered before the king and the princes. Okay, Memucan.
Queen Vashti misbehaved.
What? Misbehaved? Go ahead, speak on Memucan.
Not only toward the king, but also all the princes and all the people who are in all the provinces of King Ahasuerus. For the matter of the queen shall go forth to all women to make their husbands despised in her eyes, when they, King Ahasuerus, commanded Queen Vashti to be brought before him, but she did not come. And this day the princesses of Persia and Media shall say to all the king's officials that they have heard the matter of the queen with plenty of scorn and wrath. If it pleases the king, let a royal decree go out from him, and let it be recorded in the laws of the Persians and the Medes, so that it does not pass away that Vashti shall come no more before King Ahasuerus. And let the king give her royal position to another who is better than she. And the king's decrees which he makes shall be proclaimed throughout all his rule, great as it is, and all the wives give esteem to their husbands, both great and small.
And the word was good in the eyes of the king and the princes, and the king did according to the word of Memucan. So he sent letters to all the king's provinces, to each province in its writing, and to every people in their own language, because it is a 127 kingdoms, nations spread from India to Ethiopia, and that every man should be master of his own house, and it was so. Now, chapter 2. After these things, when the wrath of King Ahasuerus had ceased, he remembered Vashti, what she had done, and what had been decreed against her. Then the king's servants who attended him said,
let lovely young maidens be sought for the king. And let the king appoint officers in all the province of his reign, and let them together all the lovely young maidens to the citadel of Cushan into the women's quarters under the hand of Hagar the king, Enoch, guardian of the women, to give their preparations, and let the young women who pleased the king be queen instead of Vashti. I'm out of here.
That needs to be a darker print here. Who can read this? And the word pleased the king, and he did so. In the citadel of Shushan, there was a certain man, a Jew, a Yehudite, whose name was Mordecai, the son of Yair, the son of Shimei, the son of Kish. So it goes back 500 years of lineage to get back to Kish, and one of Kish's sons was King Saul. So this is the royal family of King Saul that Mordecai, now 500 years later, was now introduced as now Mordecai. And he had been exiled from Jerusalem with the captives who had been exiled with Jeconiah, king of Judah, whom Nebuchadnezzar, the king of Babel, had exiled. And it came to pass that he was raising Hadassah. Hadassah. Wait, come on, wake up, people. He was raising Hadassah. Okay, all right, okay. That is Easter. It's going to be a long night. We're going to find out why she is called after the name of the Babylonian goddess of fertility, the reincarnated wife of Nimrod, Semiramis, who after she ascended into heaven was named Queen of Heaven and sent back to the earth in a giant egg which plummeted into the Euphrates River, and out emerged Esther, the bare-breasted goddess of fertility, who turned a bird into an egg-laying rabbit. Why would they name Hadassah, a young Jewish girl, after the name of the Babylonian fertility goddess? We're going to find out in just a moment. And Hadassah was his uncle's daughter, which made them cousins, for she had neither mother or father. The young woman was lovely and of good appearance. And when her father and mother died, Mordecai took Hadassah as his own daughter. And it came to be, when the king's command and decree was heard, and when the young women were gathered together at the citadel of Shushan into the hand of Haggai, that Esther was also taken to the king's palace into the hand of Haggai, guardian of the women. And the young woman pleased him, and she received kindness. The young woman pleased him and received kindness from him. So he hastened to give her preparations and portions, and gave her 7 choice female companion servants from the king's palace, and he moved her and her servants to the best place in the house of the women. Now, Esther had not made known her people or her relatives, because Mordecai had commanded her not to make it known. That's why she was given the name of the Babylonian fertility goddess, because she was a gorgeous girl. They gave her a beautiful name, but she could fill the part. And every day, Mordecai walked about in front of the courtyard of the women's quarters to learn of Esther's welfare and what was done for her. Come on, kids, I'm not hearing the whistles at the right time. Now, when the turn of each young woman came to go into King Ahasuerus, after she had completed 12 months according to the purification regulations for women, for thus were the days of their preparation. 6 months with oil of myrrh, because they had to get these farm girls cleaned up. 6 months of grueling preparation to get the hick washed out of them. And then 6 months with perfumes and getting them ready to be the bride of the king and teaching them proper Persian. And so thus were the preparations of the woman. Thus prepared, the young woman went to the king, and whatsoever she asked to be given to her from the house of the women to the king's palace was given to her. In the evening she went, and in the morning she returned to the second house of the women, into the hand of Shaashgaz, the king's eunuch, guardian of the concubines. And so after that, she would never see another man unless it was the king, because this is now the king's concubine. She would not come into the king again unless the king delighted in her and called her by her name. And when the turn came for Esther, the daughter of Abihail, the uncle of Mordecai, who had taken her as his daughter, it was her time to come into the king, she sought no matter but what Haggai, the king's eunuch, guarding the woman, advised. And Esther, Victoria, you're losing, come on, focus. Yeah, Esther. I'm going to start picking on individual audience members and have them come up here and sit with me. The king, it came time for her to be taken into Ahasuerus. Da-da-da-da! Okay. Entered the royal palace, and it was the 10th month, and the 10th month, which is the month of Tevet, in the 7th year of his reign. So now, this is 4 years after Vashti was put away. And the king loved Esther. More than all the women, and she found favor and kindness in his eyes, more than all the maidens. And he set the royal crown upon her head and made her queen instead of Vashti. And the king made a great feast, the feast of Easter, with Easter egg rolling and hiding Easter eggs, and killing the wild boar that killed Tammuz, and eating ham on Easter Sunday. For all of his officials and servants, it was a great feast. And he proclaimed a release in the provinces, and he gave gifts according to the means of the king. And when the maidens were assembled the second time, because he had a fairly good thing going. Remember, Solomon had 1,000 wives and concubines, and he just ruled over Israel. This man has all of the empire from Egypt and Ethiopia all the way to India. And so, even after he has a new queen, he calls more girls together. And it was at that time that Mordecai sat in the king's gate. Now, Esther had not made known her relatives or her people, as Mordecai had commanded her. For Esther obeyed every command of Mordecai, just as she did when she was being raised by him. Now, in those days, while Mordecai sat within the king's gate, 2 of the king's eunuchs, Bigtha and Teresh, doorkeepers, guards, were wroth, and they sought to lay hands on King Ahasuerus. And the matter became known unto Mordecai, who informed Queen Esther. And Esther spoke to the king in Mordecai's name, And when the matter was searched into, it was confirmed. And both of these conspirators were impaled on a stake. They were seated on a sharpened instrument, wooden instrument, until they died, screaming the death of 1,000 screams. What is so funny about the death of 1,000 screams? Well, they didn't think so. They didn't think so, Elijah. No. And it was written. This whole thing was written in the book of the annals in the presence of the king.
He is one whose blood was prophesied on the doorposts in Egypt, the one who would become the ultimate sacrifice for you. Come and experience a Rood Awakening International's soul-stirring remembrance of the Passover that changed the world. Passover 2015, Worthy is the Lamb. April 3rd through the 5th at the Embassy Suites in Concord, North Carolina. Enjoy teachings from Michael Rood, Arthur Bailey, David Jesse, and children's classes with Mrs. Noah. Plus, you'll learn to make and bake your own unleavened bread and experience Michael Rood's awe-inspiring narrative of the Messiah's final hours.
The brimstone is about to hit the fan.
It's a Passover Seder you'll never forget. Register now for Passover 2015 and choose your own seat for the Seder meal. Hurry, seating is limited. Over the past year, our Rood Awakening International's ambassadors have been sponsoring 89 countries to take the gospel of the kingdom to the world.
I sat down beside a man that 1 year ago, he had been in a cult, he had been in the church, and he was searching. And he was on the church channel and saw a Rood Awakening. And it changed his life, and he's here because we were able to support that and have that available.
We need your help to reach the world. With your gift of $100 per month or more, or your one-time gift of $1,200 or more, we can reach more countries.
I want people to wake up. That's why I'm supporting the Rood Awakening.
I just give with faith. I give in faith.
Through this ministry, through Michael, we get to be part of ministering to people and changing lives.
But if you're being fed somewhere, you need to support it. And if you're being fed by Michael Rood, you need to support it.
With your gift of $100 or more a month, Michael Rood would like to bless you with this pocket watch. Whenever you look at this pocket watch, let it not only be a reminder of the time, but of the many people whose lives you're touching by getting the truth of the kingdom into their country.
Stand with us, be a part of this ministry, give, so that we can get the gospel of the kingdom out around the world.
It's very important to get the word out there so that more people can come to the truth and realize how much they're missing.
We cannot outgive God.
You're really putting your money in the Ambassador Club to where it can really help maximum number of people.
And so this message has to go out to the world.
We need you to be involved. We need you to stand with us.
Call today with your monthly gift of $100 or your one-time gift of $1,200 or more and become a member of the Ambassadors Club. Help us bring it to the world.
Now, chapter 3. After these events, King Ahasuerus promoted Haman. Here he is, Haman. Haman, ladies and gentlemen, right here. Promoted Haman. He was the son of Hammedatha, the Agagite. Oh no, the Agagite.
I'm bad. What do you think?
Now you all remember the Agagite. Remember the Amalekites, who were the offspring of Amalek, who was the grandson of Esau. When Israel came out of Egypt, the Amalekites attacked the women and the children in the rear. and destroyed the women and children. They would not fight honestly. So the Almighty said, from now on, I will do war against Amalek. And so King Saul was chosen to do battle and wipe out the Amalekites because they were always the murderers of innocent women and children. But yet, King Saul didn't do what he was commanded. And so the kingdom was ripped away from him when he disobeyed the command of Samuel by the Almighty to wipe out Agag. And now the offspring of King Agag, an Amalekite, is now promoted, and Haman was exalted by King Ahasuerus and seated him higher than all of the princes with him, the highest in all the realm, next to Ahasuerus. Okay. And all the king's servants who were in the king's gate bowed and did obeisance to Haman. For so the king had commanded concerning him. But Mordecai would not bow or do obeisance. And the king's servants who were in the king's gate said to Mordecai,
why do you disobey the king's command?
And so he explained it to him so that they would understand why he's refusing to bow to this murderous son of the Amalekites. The United Nations renamed Palestinians 50 years ago. And it came to be when they spoke to him daily, and he would not listen to them, but that they told Haman. They said, because they wanted to see whether the words of Mordecai would stand. For he told them that he was a Jew. Then, when Haman saw that Mordecai did not bow or do obeisance, that Haman was filled with wrath. But it was despicable in his eyes to lay hands on Mordecai alone, for they had informed him of the people of Mordecai, told him about all the Jews that were carried away from Jerusalem and Judea into Babylon, and they were scattered throughout all the kingdom. And then Haman sought to destroy all the Jews. He decided to destroy throughout all the realm of Ahasuerus. And so, in the first month, that is the month of the Aviv barley, but in Babylon it was called the month of Nisan because they all drove Japanese cars. In the 12th year of King Ahasuerus, and now Esther has been queen for 5 years, that someone cast Pur, that is the lot before Haman from day to day. Kind of like flipping a coin or rolling the dice. Then, it finally fell on the 12th month, which is the month of Adar. And Haman then told Ahasuerus,
there is a certain people scattered and dispersed among the people in all the provinces of your reign, whose laws are different from all people, and they do not do the king's laws. Therefore, it is not in the king's interest to let them remain. If it pleases the king, let a decree be written to destroy them, and let me pay 10,000 talents of silver into the hands of those who do the work to bring it into the king's treasuries.
And the king took his signet ring from his hand, gave it to Haman, the son of Hammedatha, the Agagite, the enemy of the Jews. And the king said unto Haman,
The silver and the people are yours, to do with them what seems good to you.
Thank you, king.
And the king's scribes were called on the 13th day of the first month. And a decree was written according to all that Haman commanded. To the viceroys of the king, to the governors who were over every province, and to the officials of all the people, to every province according to its writing, and to every people in their language. And it was written in the name of King Ahasuerus, and sealed with the king's own signet ring. And the letters were sent by the runners into all the king's provinces, to cut off, to slay, to destroy, to massacre, to completely rid the entire empire of all the Jews, both young and old, little bitty children and women. And it's to happen in one day, on the 13th day of the 12th month, in the month of Adar, and then to plunder all their possessions. A copy of the writing was made in law and published in every province to all the people to be ready for that one day. And runners went out, hastened by the king's command, and the decree was given out in the citadel of Shushan. The king and Haman then sat down to drink Courvoisier XO. But the city of Shushan was in absolute despair. Chapter 4. And Mordecai, when he learned all that had been done, he tore his garments, put on sackcloth and ashes, went out into the midst of the city and cried out with a loud and a bitter cry. If I would have just bowed down in front of Haman. No. And he went up in front of the king's gate, for no one might enter the king's gate wearing sackcloth. It was against the law. And in every province where the king's command and decree came, there was great mourning among the Jews, and fasting and weeping and wailing, and many lay in sackcloth and ashes. And Esther's young women and eunuchs came and told her, and the queen was deeply pained and sent garments to Mordecai to wear. Why is he in sackcloth and ashes? She has no idea. And give him these garments and take away the sackcloth from him. But Mordecai, he refused to do so. And Esther called Hatak, one of the king's eunuchs, whom he had appointed to attend her, and she gave him a command concerning Mordecai. Go and learn what this is all about and why he is in sackcloth and ashes. And Hatak went out to Mordecai to an open space of the city in front of the king's gate, and Mordecai told Hatak all that had befallen him, and about the silver that Haman promised to pay into the king's treasuries to destroy all the Yehudim. And he gave him a copy of the written decree to destroy them, which was given at Shushan, to show it to Esther and explain it to her, and to command her to go into the king and make supplication to him and plead before him for her people. And Hatak came and told Esther the words of Mordecai. And Esther spoke to Hatak and gave him command for Mordecai.
All the king's servants and the people of the king's
king's provinces know that any man or woman who goes into the inner court to the king who has not been called, he has but one law, to be put to death. Except the one to whom the king holds out the golden scepter. Who then shall live? But I have not been called to come into the king these 30 days.
And they declared to Mordecai
Yay!
the words of Easter. And Mordecai commanded them to answer Esther.
Do not think within yourself that escape in the king's palace any more than all the Yehudim. For if you keep entirely silent at this time, relief and deliverance shall arise for the Yehudim from another place, while you and your father's house shall perish. And who knows whether you have come to the reign for such a time as this.
Oh, wait, give me that last line again. Give it with pizzazz.
And who knows whether you have come to the reign for such a time as this.
Let's have some drama music now. And Esther commanded to reply to Mordecai,
Go, gather all the Yehudim who are present in Shushan and fast for me, and do not eat or drink for 3 days, day or night. I too and my young women shall fast in the same way, and then I shall go to the king, which is against the law. And if I shall perish, I shall perish.
Mordecai then went away and did all according to that which Esther had commanded him. And it came to pass on the 3rd day that Esther put on royal apparel and stood in the inner court of the king's palace in front of the king's house, while the king sat on his royal throne in the royal house opposite the entrance of the house. And it came to pass that when the king saw Queen Esther standing in the court, that she found favor in his eyes, and the king held out to Esther the golden scepter which was in his hand. And Esther went near and touched the top of the scepter, and the king said unto her,
What is it, Queen Esther? And what is your request? Up to half of my reign, and it is yours.
And Esther,
If it pleases the king, let the king and Haman come today to the feast which I have prepared for him.
And the king said,
What is your petition?
No!
No.
He didn't say that.
Oh. Get Haman at once to do as Esther has said.
Then the king and Haman went to the banquet of wine and cheese, which Esther had prepared. And the king said to Esther, as they opened up the 2nd bottle of Cabernet Sauvignon,
What is your petition? And it is given you. And what is your request? Up to half my reign, and it is done.
And Esther answered and said,
My petition and request is this. If I have found favor in the eyes of the king, and if it pleases the king to give my petition and perform my request, then let the king and Haman come to the feast which I shall make for them, and tomorrow I shall do according to the word of the king.
And Haman, he went out that day rejoicing with a glad heart. Zippity-doo-dah, zippity-day, my, oh my, what a wonderful day. Plenty of sunshine headed my way. Zippity-doo-dah, zippity, yay. But when Haman saw Mordecai in the king's gate, and he refused to stand or tremble before him, he was filled with wrath against Mordecai. But Haman, he constrained himself, and he went to his house, and he called for his friends and Zeresh, which is Persian for Goldie, his wife. And Haman recounted to all them the esteem of his wealth and of his many sons, and all in which the king had promoted him, and how he had exalted him above all the officials and servants of the king, and he alone was invited with the king to go into the royal banquet with Hadassah. And Haman said,
besides, Esther the queen, let no one but me come in with the king to the feast which she prepared. And tomorrow, too, I am invited by her along with the king. But all this does not suit me as long as I see Mordecai, the Yehudite, sitting at the king's gates.
So when his wife Goldie and all of his friends said to him,
let a stake be made 50 cubits high, and the morning speak to the king that Mordecai be impaled on it, and go with the king to the feast rejoicing.
And the word pleased Haman.
Good idea, Goldie.
And he had a stake made to impale Mordecai. I didn't get a lot of cheers on Mordecai right then. Maybe it's the idea of seating him on a 75-foot high impaling stake that doesn't really deserve a cheer. Okay, we'll let that one go. So, chapter 6. It just so happened that on that night, the sleep of the king fled. And so he commanded to bring the book of the records of the annals of the king. Because if anything was going to put him to sleep, it's going to be the record of what people said to him. And they were read before the king. And it just so happened that it was found written that Mordecai had told Bigthana and Teresh, two of the king's eunuchs, the doorkeepers, the guards who had sought to lay hands on King Ahasuerus. And when the record was read to him, the king says,
what has been done in value or in greatness to Mordecai for this?
And the king's servants who attended him said,
naughty has been done for him.
Wait, get rid of the Y there. It's not naughty.
What is it?
It's not.
Not.
It's nothing.
Absolutely.
Okay, all right. We can give you some slack. You're a eunuch, all right?
Come on.
He's already paid a price. And the king said,
who's in the courts?
Now Haman had just come into the outer court, it just so happens, at that very moment, and had come into the king's palace to speak to the king about impaling Mordecai on the 75-foot high sharpened stake that he had prepared for him the day and evening before. And the king's servant said unto him, okay, all right, eunuch, what are you doing?
Look, is standing in the court.
Who is standing in the court?
I don't know. Oh.
Haman!
Haman!
And the king said,
"Let him come in."
No, a little more grandiose.
"Let him come in. Now."
And when Haman came in, the king asked him,
"What is to be done for the man whom the king delights to value?"
Now Haman thought in his heart,
"Whom would the king delight to value more than me?"
And Haman then answered the king,
"For the man whom the king delights to value, let a royal robe be brought, which the king has worn, and a horse on which the king has ridden, one with a royal crest placed on its head, and let the robe and the horse be given unto the hand of one of the king's most noble princes. Let them dress the man whom the king delights to value, and make him ride on the horseback through the city square, and proclaim before him, thus it is done to the man whom the king delights to honor."
And the king said to him,
"Hurry!
Haman, go ahead, king.
Hurry! Take the robe and the horse, as you have spoken, and do so for Mordecai, the Yehovah, who sits in the king's gates. Let no word fail of all that you have spoken."
So Haman took the robe and the horse and robed Mordecai, led him on horseback through the city square, and proclaimed before him,
Thus it is done to the man whom the king delights to honor.
Then Mordecai returned back to the king's gate an honored man. But Haman hurried back to his house, mourning, his head covered, crying like a little baby. Who hasn't had his diaper changed. And when Haman related this to his wife Zeresh, and all of his friends that had been, all that had befallen him, that is when his wise men and his wife Zeresh said to him,
"If Mordecai, before whom you have begun to fall, is from the seed of Yehudim, you are not going to prevail against him, but certainly fall before him."
While they were still speaking with him, the king's eunuchs came and hurried to bring him to Haman's feast, which Esther had prepared for them. Chapter 7. And the king and Haman came to eat and to drink with Queen Esther. And again the second day, at the feast of wine, the king said to Esther,
"What is your petition, Queen Esther? And it is given to you. And what is your request, Esther? Up to half my reign, and it is done."
And Queen Esther answered and said,
"If I have found favor in your eyes, O king, and if it pleases the king, let my life be given me at my petition, and my people at my request. For we have been sold, my people and I, to be cut off, to be slain, and to be destroyed. And if we had been sold as male and female slaves, I would have kept silent, although the adversary could not make up for the king's loss.
Then King Ahasuerus,
who is he? Where is he? Whose heart is set to do so?
Then Esther said,
The adversary and enemy is this evil Haman!
Then Haman was afraid before the king and queen. And the king, arising in his wrath from the feast of wine, went into the palace garden, and Haman remained there before Queen Esther, pleading for his life, for he saw that evil had been decided against him by the king. And when the king returned from the palace garden to the place of the feast of wine, Haman had fallen on the couch where Esther was. And the king said,
also to ravish the queen while I'm in the house?
As the word left the king's mouth, they covered Haman's face. Come and cover his face. Take that cape and cover that Agagite, that Amalekite, cover his face and get him out of here. Out! Get him out! Get him out! Oh. As the word left the king's mouth, they covered his face, and Harbona, one of the eunuchs, said to the king,
Also see the stack.
It's a stake. They're gonna stick
okay.
him on
Well,
a
I
stake.
can't see quite good right now. 50 cubits high, which, thank you, brother. Perfect.
Haman.
Yeah. On behalf of the king is standing at the house of Haman.
And so the king, hearing about the 50-cubit high impaling stake that was built in the house of Haman, the king said,
impale him on it.
Ha! And so they impaled Haman on the stake that he had prepared for Mordecai. And then the king's wrath was abated. Chapter 9. Chapter 8. On that day, King Ahasuerus gave to Queen Esther the house of Haman, the adversary of the Jews, and Mordecai came before the king, for Esther had explained that he was her cousin and had raised her from a youth. And the king took off his signet ring, which he had taken from Haman, and he gave it to Mordecai. And Esther, who had just been given the house of Haman, then gave Mordecai the entire house and wealth of Haman. And Esther spoke to the king again and fell down at his feet and begged him with tears to put an end to the evil of Haman, the Amalekite Agagite, into his plot which he had plotted against the Jews. And the king held out the golden scepter toward Esther, and she arose and stood before the king and said,
If it pleases the king, and if I have found favor in his sight, and the matter is right before the king, and I'm pleasing in his eyes, let it be written to bring back the letters, the plot by Haman, son of Hammedatha the Agagite, which he wrote to destroy the Yehudim, which are in all the king's provinces. For how can I bear to see the evil coming to my people? Or How could I bear to see the destruction of my relatives?
And King Ahasuerus said to Queen Esther and Mordecai, the Jew,
look, I have given Esther the house of Haman. And they have impaled him on the stake because he laid his hand on the Yehudim.
Yay.
Now you write on behalf of the Yehudim as if pleases you, in the king's name, and seal it with the king's signet ring. For a letter which is written in the king's name and sealed with the king's signet ring, no one turns back.
So the king's scribes were called at that time in the 3rd month, which is the month of Siwan, on the 23rd day, and it was written according to all that Mordecai had commanded to the Jews, and to the viceroys, the governors, the princes, from all the provinces, from India to Cush, 127 kingdoms, to every kingdom in its own writing in the language of its own people, and to the Yehudim in their own writing and in their own language. And he wrote in the name of King Ahasuerus, and sealed it with the king's signet ring, and sent letters by runners on horseback, riding on royal horses bred from speedy mares. And the king had granted to the Yehudim, who are in every city, to be assembled and stand for their lives. Go down to the pawn shop and buy all the weapons you can, to cut off and to slay and to destroy all the power of the people, from every province that would distress them. Both you cut them off, kill them all, wipe them out, little bitty children and women, and everyone who would come against you to plunder their possessions. On one day, in all the provinces of King Ahasuerus, on the 13th day of the 12th month, which is the month of Adar, this is the day that ye shall do this. The copy of the writing to be made law in every province was announced to all the peoples, so that the Yehudim would be ready on that day to be avenged of their enemies, and to protect themselves and defend themselves against their enemies. So the runners, riding on royal horses, went out, hastened and pressed on by the king's command, and the decree was given out in the citadel of Shushan. And Mordecai went out from the presence of the king, wearing royal garments of blue and white, and a great crown of gold, and a garment of fine linen and purple. And the city of Shushan rejoiced and was glad. For the Yehudim there was light and gladness and joy and prosperity. And in every province, in every city where the king's commandment and decree came, the Yehudim had joy and gladness, a feast and a Yom Tov, a good day. And many of the people of the land became Jews, because the respect of the Judeans had fallen upon them. Chapter 9. So in the 12th month, that is the month of Adar, on the 13th day, when the king's command and his decree came to be done, that everyone was choked up on that day, on the day that the enemies of the Jews had waited to overpower them. But it was turned around so that the Jews overpowered them that hated them. It just so happened that it completely reversed what the plan of the New World Order under the control and authority of Haman. All their plans were turned completely about. The Jews assembled in their cities throughout all the provinces of King Ahasuerus to lay hands on those who sought their evil. And no one stood against them, because fear of them fell upon all people. These little Jewish boys with kippahs on. They were all deathly afraid of them. With their prayer shawls and their kippas and their black hats and their peyotes. Everyone deathly afraid of them. All of a sudden. And all the officials of the provinces and the viceroys, the governors, and all those doing the king's work helped the Jews because the fear of Mordecai fell upon them. For Mordecai was great in the palace of the king. Even though his name means little, yet he was exalted and became great in the palace of the king, and his report spread into all the provinces. For this man Mordecai became greater and greater. And the Jews smote all their enemies with a stroke of the sword. And slaughter. He smote them with slaughter and destruction and did what they pleased to those that hated them. And in the citadel of Shushan, the Jews slew and destroyed 500 men. And they slew those who will now be nameless, these 10 sons of Haman, the Agagite, because their names are so blotted out, I'm not even going to speak their names. These 10 sons, the enemies of the Jews. But they did not lay a hand on the plunder. On that day, the number of those who were slain in the citadel of Shushan came before the king, and the king said to Queen Esther,
"The Yehudim have slain and destroyed 500 men in the citadel of Shushan, and the 10 sons of Haman. What have they done in the rest of the king's provinces? And what is your petition? And it is given to you. And what is your further request? And it is done."
And Esther said,
"If it pleases the king, let it be given to the Yehudim who are in Shushan to do again tomorrow according to today's decree, and let Haman's 10 sons be impaled on the stake."
Ooh, good idea. And the king commanded this to be done, and the decree was given in Shushan, and they impaled Haman's 10 sons, who are already dead, but they're still going to gore them through and hang them up for everyone in the entire citadel to see. And the Jews who were in Shushan also assembled on the 14th day of the month of Adar, and they slew 300 more men at Shushan. But again, they did not lay their hand on the plunder. And the rest of the Jews in the king's provinces assembled and stood for their lives and to get rest from their enemies, and they slayed 75,000 of their enemies. But they did not put their hand to the plunder. That was on the 13th day of the month of Adar that they did that. 75,000 throughout the entire empire. And on the 14th day of the month, they rested and made it a day of feasting and gladness. But the Jews who were in Shushan assembled on the 13th day as well as the 14th day. And then on the 15th day of the month, they rested and made it a day of feasting and gladness. Therefore, the Yehudim of the villages who dwelt in the unwalled towns were making the 14th day of the month of Adar a good day of gladness and feasting, and for sending portions one to another. And Mordecai wrote these matters and sent letters to all the Jews who were in all the provinces of King Ahasuerus, both near and far, to establish among them to observe the 14th and 15th days of the month of Adar yearly, as the days on which the Jews had rest from their enemies, as the month which was turned from sorrow to joy for them, and from mourning to a good day, and that they should make days of feasting and joy, of sending portions to one another in gifts to the poor. And the Yehudim undertook to do as they had begun, and as Mordecai had written unto them. because Haman, the son of Hammedatha, the Agagite, the adversary of all the Jews, had plotted against the Jews to destroy them and had cast pur, that is, cast the lot, to crush them and to destroy them. But when she came before the king, Esther, he is relating this, what had taken place, when she risked her life and came before the king, he commanded by letter that this evil plot, which Haman had plotted against the Yehudim, should return on his own head, and that he and his son should be impaled on the stake. And now this word is going out to the entire empire so that everyone knows exactly what had taken place, why these letters were written, why this had all transpired, because everyone needed to know in the entire empire of Xerxes what had transpired to make all this come to pass. Because they all knew that Vashti had been put away from being queen, and that Esther, who now the entire empire knows that she is a Jew, has then taken a stand, and now we see the result. That Haman and his 10 sons are now impaled. Therefore, he writes, these days shall be called Purim, after Pur. Therefore, because all the words of this letter, what they had seen concerning this matter, and what had come upon them, the Jews imposed it upon themselves and upon their seeds, and upon all who join themselves to Judah, that without fail, they should observe these 2 days every year according to their writing and at their appointed time. And that is why even today, in the walled city of Jerusalem, Purim is 2 days. But outside of Jerusalem and in the diaspora, it is 1 day, on the 14th. And that these days should be remembered and observed throughout every generation, every family, every province, every city, that these days of Purim should not fail from among the Jews, and that the remembrance of them should not cease from their seed. So now we are still in chapter 9 of the scroll of Hadassah. In verse 29, after Mordecai gave the historical background of why we are going to do this, then Queen Esther, the daughter of Abihail, with Mordecai, the Jew, wrote with all authority, because their authority came from King Ahasuerus, to confirm the second letter about Purim. And Mordecai sent letters to all the Yehudim, to the 127 kingdoms of the reign of Ahasuerus. And he sent letters of words of peace and truth to establish these days of Purim at their appointed time, as Mordecai the Yehudi and Queen Esther, which I think now that everyone knows she's a Jew, we can drop the Babylonian name of Esther. So Queen Hadassah and Mordecai had established these days of Purim for them. It's a gift to us. And as they had established for themselves and their seed concerning the matters of their fasting and lamenting. And the decree of Hadassah and the decree of Hadassah Victoria, still waiting for you, sweetheart. And the decree of Hadassah, she's there ogling her husband up here in the outfit of Mordecai. Can't get her eyes off him. Established these matters of Purim, and it was written in the book, which we are now reading, and in the annals of the king Xerxes of Persia. And now, ladies and gentlemen, the final chapter, chapter 10. And King Ahasuerus laid taxes on the land and on the islands of the seas. He's got to pay for the next party. In all the acts of his power and of his might, and the great account of his magnificence, and the greatness of Mordecai, which the king made him great, are they not written in the book of the annals of the kings of Media and Persia? And where do most of the copies of that now exist? It exists in the scrolls of the Jews themselves and have been watched over much more carefully than all of the records of the Medes and the Persians. Very few of their vast records still remain to this day, but we still have the accurate record of what happened in Persia in the scroll. For Mordecai, the Jew, was second to King Ahasuerus, and he was great among the Jews, pleasing to his many brothers, and he sought the good of his people. He was not a politician, he was a statesman. He sought the good of his people, and he spoke peace to all of his seed. So,